further ado, let's bring our partners onto the project. Welcome to the stage, first of all, Celia Shakriaba, anthropologist and federal deputy for Manus Jaris. And next, we have Mapu Huni Kuni, spiritual leader and musician. And of course, Alok, who is obviously the superstar DJ and producer and one of Brazil's biggest global artists. Welcome, everyone, to the Distinguished Grammy Museum. Such a pleasure to have you all. I know you've traveled from many different regions across Brazil to be here tonight. And we look forward to hearing more about the project and getting to understand really how this creative journey happened and how it came together. So let's get started. Alok, this first question is for you. Please tell me, how did this first happen? How did this first come together, your connection to work with the indigenous artists? Because when I look at you and I look at them, don't take offense, but it's not immediately obvious to me why this happened. Please share with us.
Hello. You guys here? Yeah. No. Hello, good night, everyone. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate the presence of each one of you guys here tonight. So, back in days in 2014, I was living like a very depressive moment in my life where I was trying to find a meaning to it. And I was also trying to find an inspiration. I couldn't really produce songs anymore. So a friend of mine presented me like a song of a tribe, like a very isolated tribe called Yawanawa. And I got in love with it. I said, I have to go there. It really inspired me. So I went to this very long journey where I had like to get 3 flights and then 13 hours in a road and then 9 hours in a very small canoa. When I finally got there in the heart of Amazon, it was like life-changing for me because while I was doing songs to work on the top 10 radio, they were doing songs for healing. And the way they were doing the songs, it was like way more intense and with a real meaning behind it, And I also, had the mindset that we are a more developed culture and they're less. But as soon as I got there, I realized that that doesn't exist. It's different values and goals. And that was like a real life-changing for me. So after like 8 years ahead in 2021, I was, asking myself where was the future? And it came to answer like the future is ancestral. So I knew I had to reconnect with them. And I knew that I had to produce an album inspired by the indigenous roots. And what happened was that after I had this vision, I called to my team and said let's stop everything we're doing. I want to do this project, and no one really, after 24 hours, they called me again, are you sure? It's like, are you guys not rushing? And then after 2 months, we were already in the studio with 8 different tribes around Brazil. And for example, it's very complicated because Mapu, where he lives, it's 2 weeks of traveling from the nearest airport.
Wow.
And then you guys know where Dom and Philip were murdered in Brazil because they're trying to, they were traveling for 27 days in that place, and that's nearby where he lives. So imagine to bring everyone across together in a studio, and then after getting everything with the logistics, and then what I'm gonna do with them there in the studio, right? It's another challenge. And I was really grateful because, just a last topic, because in 2019, when I was invited to become a character of a most downloaded game in the world called Fear Fire, they asked me which superpower I wanted to have. And I remember what I learned with them, and I said, is it possible to heal people? And then they said, yeah, but are you sure? They're like, this is a battle royale game. I said, yes, I am. So what happened was that my character became the best seller of the game, not because of Alok, not because of my songs, because the superpower really changed the dynamic of the game. And then after 11 months, I received the first statement, and I knew that I had to use this to heal inside but also outside the game. So I donated 100% of my royalties. That's why we brought the Institute Alok to Brazil, India, and Africa, due to what I learned with them. So yeah, now we're here.
Yeah.
We have a lot more to talk, but
that's incredible.
Yeah,
but clearly, it's been very fulfilling for you. Thank you, Alok. Celia and Mapu, I'd love to now hear from you about how you got on board with this project and what was the purpose for you. Mapu?
Então, esse projeto, ele nasceu através do convite do nosso irmão Alok, né? E logo no começo eu não estava entendendo, mas quando a gente se encontramos, que consagramos a medicina da ayahuasca junto, foi aonde a gente conseguiu se comunicar e se criamos essa relação. E aí foi aonde eu entendi o tamanho do projeto, a necessidade de a gente trazer uma mensagem tão importante para o mundo, para ser tocado através da nossa voz, trazendo essa mensagem mesmo da natureza, para que a sociedade sentisse a necessidade do que a natureza está falando com todos nós, né? Então assim, foi a partir dali mesmo que eu me entreguei de coração e me conectei com esse grande irmão guerreiro, que faz a gente expressar a essa mensagem que vem da natureza para o mundo.
Well, that was quite a lot.
Thank you, Mapu. Celia, the same question for you, please. How did you... We have the translation? Yes, please. Okay, here we have the English translation for everyone.
Short version was beautiful commentary.
I
So
don't think it's very loud, actually.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's better.
So this all began with an invitation from Alok, as he explained, and I stirred in my heart, and I felt the need to express the power of nature through music, and we developed this project together and feel that we can bring something to you, the power, the gift of music, and the gift of our people and nature.
Thank you. Thank you for that on behalf of Mapu. Thank you, Mapu. And Celia, if you could please share with us, what was the purpose for you getting involved in this project?
Vamos falar de música, então vamos cantar.
It's beautiful.
A ideia foi não somente cantar em cima dos palcos, mas também tocar nos corações das pessoas. E eu me senti muito provocada porque eu não era cantora e me chamaram para fazer parte de ser roteirista. E eu falei, não, não quero. E falou, não, é como se você fosse curadora. Eu falei, não, quem cura é o pajé. E foi um desafio, saindo da pandemia, mas um desafio também que eu sempre disse que sem deslocamento não tem viagem. E viagem não é só pegar um barco, não é só pegar um voo para cá. Viagem é fazer as pessoas irem embora do show e a alma continuar dançando.
Travel is not just getting on a plane and going somewhere. It's stirring people in their heart, moving them, and taking them on a spiritual trip. And when I began all this, I wanted to. I was pretty hesitant. I didn't feel I was a professional singer, but I was inspired to join in and share what I can.
E Alok, eu perguntava para ele, você acha que onde que nasce a música? E ele falou, nós estamos aqui no estúdio gravando. E eu falei, a música nasce do lado de fora. O que estamos fazendo aqui dentro do estúdio é guardando as músicas. Assim como nós somos guardiões da floresta, o estúdio também ajuda a guardar a música.
So Alok asked us, where does the music come from? I said, you know what? It doesn't come from here inside the studio. It comes from outside. It comes from the forest. It comes from nature.
E o melhor jeito de guardar a música é dentro das pessoas.
Thank you, Celia. Thank you. And the next question. Yes, are you hearing the translation very well? Is it a little quiet? Too quiet? Yeah. Maybe someone on our fabulous production team can help.
It's not easy to translate Celia.
Okay? We proceed.
Continuamos.
Okay? Well, the next question is for you, Alok. I'd like to understand and discuss with you and share with everyone more about the process of making the album. Share with us, please. You are fusing electronic music with this ancestral music, this beautiful ancestral music. What were some of the rewards of that? And also, what were some of the challenges you faced?
You know, I actually didn't put anyone to do electronic with me. I was like being the producer, and I just asked them what they wanted to do. Some of them wanted to go to electronics, some of them wanted to go to pop, like Mapu. Others wanted to go to hip hop. So I was like, they're just, you know, really producing what they wanted to do, because I think they can choose any territory they want to occupy, you know. We don't need to input anything else for them. And I was very pleased, you know, to really like try to understand what they wanted. But it's a big challenge because, for example, Mapu, right? Every time he was going to sing a song, the song will take like 14, 15, 20 minutes. But sometimes I just wanted a small shot of 3 seconds. And he was singing for the ancestrals all the time. And I was like, come on, like, I had 1-2 hours of session, but you know, at some moment I said like, sorry to interrupt, but let's focus here and work. And you know, and it was very interesting to see, because they never did a recording in the studio, and also never did something like, for example, on the 4x4, for example. And it was a big challenge. And the way I was trying to communicate with Mapu at some moment was like doing mimics, you know. When I put my hands up here, you say this word. When I do this one, you say that one. And it was like, honestly, one of the best experiences I ever had in the studio, because we were really co-creating something outside. Like, what do you want to sing? What do you want to sing about it? It was just trying to bring words, and we're just building up. So the process with Mapu was different from the process, for example, with Yawanawa. Yawanawa, when I did the song, they were singing a song to me, and I was very emotional. I was like, wow, this song is beautiful. When did you guys created this? Because 8 years ago, when I was at your tribe, I don't remember listening to it. They said, like, this one, as we remember, has 500 years old. So I understood that, you know, like, wow, it's a lot of responsibility, but for them, the music, it's also the way they transmit their culture for the next generations, because in their culture, they don't write, you know, read. So it's the music that go, you know, through all the generations. And so, you know, everyone had a singularity. And the last example, for example, that there are 2 hip-hop groups here. Actually, one is the first hip-hop indigenous group in the world that are here, Bros MCs. And yeah, they're here, they're gonna sing, it's amazing. And the other one is Kunomi, is the new generation also of it. But I had something in my mind, like, if indigenous is living in the city, it's not indigenous anymore. Like, and then they told me like, Alok, listen, I didn't have the choice. The city just crossed and invaded my tribe, so I have to live in the city, but we are bound in here because we cannot really get into the society. So at that moment I realized that the way they could manifest was through the hip hop, because it was the sound that they were listening by, the influence where they're living at. So I understood also back again that, you know, they never had the opportunity to tell their own story. We always think about them as savage in the middle of the jungle, because they were always taught by some white people writing down the story out. But now it's the time for them to tell their own story. And I think the music, you know, is a very good way to express themselves. So I mean, there's a lot of challenge. I would spend here like hours and hours, right, Garibay? Like, and to try to explain this process. But I think that the best way to translate it is really like performing for you guys later on. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.
We can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alok. And just before we move on to the next question, this is just for Celia and Mapu. Please, when you are speaking and giving your answers, if you could just slow down slightly, it will help with the English translation. Please. Thank you. So Celia, as both an anthropologist and an activist, I would love to know the significance that you see from being involved in this project, particularly in the context of how it's really going to help the indigenous communities.
Para mim foi convite do chamado da terra, convite onde todo mundo está falando. Tá vendo esses cocares bonitos, as pinturas bonitas, essa voz bonita? Essa voz também está sendo ameaçada.
So this beautiful voice which we see, these beautiful headdresses, you got to understand, this is an act of threatening these people. When you see them, they are threatened. This is a dangerous situation that we're living in.
Eu falava, Alok, eu vou embora, tá tendo muitos retrocessos de direito em Brasília. Eu não posso ficar aqui gravando música enquanto os territórios estão sendo ameaçados.
I said to Alok, look, I've got hard work to do back in Brasilia. Bad things are happening. I got to go back there. I can't just be here recording music. Sorry, man.
E quando eu falo sem deslocamento não tem viagem, a ideia não era ele somente me levar para aquele lugar. Nós levamos ele também para a luta.
So it was a two-way street. He was taking us somewhere. We were taking him to the battle front.
Eram várias ameaças no território, lideranças indígenas morrendo, desmatamento.
People are being killed. Indigenous territories are being invaded, overrun by outsiders who are violent.
Uma tese do marco temporal que retirava direitos territoriais dos povos indígenas.
They've been taking away the rights of indigenous people to their own land, despite all precedent and right.
E quando a gente está defendendo a floresta, o território, as águas, a gente está defendendo a música.
So when we work for the land, we're also actually defending music itself.
Porque não vai existir palco para cantar se não existir território, se não existir floresta.
Because if there's not territory, our land, there will not be any music that comes from that land.
Cada de nós somos uma árvore.
Every single one of us is a tree.
Junto nós somos floresta.
Together we are a forest.
Cada canto é uma música.
Every field is a song.
Quando cantamos junto é ritual.
When we sing together, that is a ritual.
E ritual cura.
And rituals cure us.
E a cura não está somente no princípio ativo da medicina.
And when we talk about curing, of course, I'm not talking about biological medicine, just
a cura, assim como o Mapu, é o jeito de colocar a mão no corpo.
As Mapu would put it, curing is expressed in the way that you touch someone with your hand.
A música é o jeito de colocar, tocar dentro das pessoas.
And the music is like a spiritual finger touching somebody in the heart.
E por isso até hoje no Congresso Nacional eu começo cantando.
And that's why in the National Parliament I begin by singing, and that's why I did it here tonight.
E as pessoas perguntam, por que você está cantando? Eu falo, vocês não rezam para comer?
They say, what are you doing singing? What's all this about? I say, don't you pray before you eat?
Eu canto para falar, é jeito de chegar no coração das pessoas.
So I sing in order to touch people in their hearts.
Thank you, Celia. That's very inspiring. And also for you, Mapu, as a spiritual leader, how do you believe the future is ancestral will resonate with audiences around the world, and what is the impact that you hope it will have?
Eu, como líder espiritual, eu vejo que através das músicas a gente pode fazer as pessoas sentir a energia que vem da natureza.
I think that through music you can make people feel the energy that comes from nature.
Hoje as pessoas vivem no meio dessa sociedade da tecnologia, já são desconectadas da natureza.
People today in modern society with all the technology, it just disconnects them from nature.
E através do canto a gente traz essa mensagem, essa energia para que cada possa sentir a natureza dentro de si.
And through singing we reconnect with that feeling that you all can have to feel nature that is around you and in you.
e que cada um possa entender com toda essa mudança climática o que a natureza está falando com cada um de nós.
And with all this global warming, climate change, you know what that is? That is nature speaking to all of us.
Então o nosso canto vem para abrir o coração de cada um de vocês, para sentir e entender o que a natureza está falando para cada um de nós.
So our song, the purpose of it is to open your hearts so you can listen to what Mother Nature is saying to us.
Então, como líder espiritual, eu topei essa proposta porque é isso importante, para que cada um de vocês entenda a nossa luta como líder espiritual, trazendo essa energia que vem da natureza para que nós possamos realmente entender e sentir e lutar pela mãe natureza.
So my work as a spiritual leader is dedicated to opening you up so that you can feel the power of nature and we can all experience it together.
E hoje estamos aqui para fazer vocês sentir a energia da natureza e a mensagem da natureza do coração de cada um de vocês.
We're here so that you can feel the power of nature in your hearts and we can all experience this together.
Hush, hush.
Thank you. And next question for you, Alok. Please share with us, what are the lessons that you have learned from collaborating with the indigenous about how the indigenous can teach us about a more sustainable future?
Well, I think the first lesson is about like respecting their culture, you know. We're very disconnected with it. As I said before, you know, we really do not connect with the forest and also with the indigenous culture. But after that, you know, during the process of, you know, I was trying to do a song to preserve their voices, and then Celia called me out and said, listen, it's beautiful that you're protecting the voices, but you have to protect also the voices that sings. So I understood that, you know, we were having a situation where, you know, in the end of the day, there's a lot of people that think that the forest stand is not productive. And in Brazil, we have this kind of duality in those narratives where, you know, when people try to tell the Brazilians that, you know, it's actually worth it to have the forest, they just say, oh, but you already deforest everything, so you don't have anything to tell us, you know. And then the other side, we're trying to, you know, create consciousness about how important it is. I've seen that, you know, back in days, Elon Musk, he released like a X Prize that the people that who created technology that could, you know, get the carbon. And I thought, listen, but that already exists. It's called trees, you know. So in a way where I was always thinking about the future in a very apocalyptic way, where, you know, if you think about it in 50 years, like, is it going to be neon cities, you know, like flying cars, and why can't the future be indigenous in his very small boats in the middle of Amazon, the river, and then he takes his phone, very sophisticated, and he starts to scan the bird. You know, I'm someone that, you know, I always have the technology as my biggest ally, because I don't know how to sing, I don't know how to dance, I don't have bands, so I really use the technology in my favor to do all my shows and concerts and produce. But there's nothing more technology than the nature, and I can really affirm that. Like, so, you know, it's like, I think this project is the most important project of my career. It's because not about myself. It's about really being a platform to potentialize their voices. And, you know, I feel that in a certain way, you know, once you don't have consciousness about something, it's very normal that you do a mistake. But if you have conscience about something, it's not a mistake anymore, it's a choice. And what's your choice? So I think that, you know, this project is really to bring awareness and consciousness about all of this. And I think the best way to do it, honestly, is through the songs, because you can really, like, you don't have to understand Rony Queen or Shakiriaba to feel it, you know. So yeah, I actually would like to, you know, invite all of you to be part of this movement, because the last thing that this project is Alok's project. If you think about Alok's project, it's so small. And honestly, like, I am in a place where I just really want to be the platform, and I invite all of you also to be the platform to potentialize their voices. It's very important, not only at the global level, but also where we live in Brazil. So having your validation is super important for us.
Thank you. And to Celia and Mapu, I'm asking you, if people want to get involved and support indigenous communities, how can they do that?
Sendo floresta
Célia.
junto com nós.
Working with us.
Porque floresta não é somente as águas, a mata, a Amazônia, o cerrado, 6 biomas brasileiros. Floresta somos nós.
Because the forest is not just the biome, the Brazilian Amazon, the physical thing. We are the forest.
As pessoas perguntam como que eu faço para ajudar a reflorestar. Vamos reflorestar dentro de nós.
People ask me, how are we going to do reforestation projects? I say, you got to begin by reforesting yourself.
Porque o desmatamento começa dentro de nós. Então vamos descarbonizar as nossas mentes.
Because this stripping away of the forest, deforestation, that's actually a process that happens not just in nature, it happens to people.
Ninguém vai entender o processo dessa música, mas o processo dessa música reuniu e uniu pessoas. A única coisa capaz de unir a humanidade é a música e a floresta.
The only two things which are going to be able to unite people all around the world are these two things, the forest and music.
E a música é algo tão incrível que eu digo que a nossa voz ancestral, ela é a prova de bala.
So we believe that music was so important that it was bulletproof. That's our traditional belief.
Durante a nossa gravação, várias lideranças indígenas foram assassinadas.
However, think about it. During the process of the recording of this record, a number of important indigenous leaders were killed.
Mas felizmente ninguém consegue atingir com uma bala a nossa voz e a nossa força espiritual.
However, our voice and our spirituality are bulletproof. They cannot be killed.
As pessoas perguntam, o que é o futuro ancestral?
So people ask, what do you mean future is ancestral?
É como se fosse um movimento flecha.
It's like an arrow, bang.
Só existe solução no futuro
The solution is in the future.
se bebemos em algumas fontes ancestral.
However, it comes from the past, like the arrow.
E quando muitas vezes as pessoas falam, os povos indígenas são atrasados,
So sometimes people say indigenous people are backward, primitive.
mas atrasado é um país que demora tanto tempo para ter professor indígena na universidade.
But the real mark of a primitive, backward country is one which takes so long to, train indigenous people so that they can be professors in their own schools.
Um país que demorou tanto tempo para ter um álbum com artistas indígenas.
And a country which took so long to come up with an artist, like this one right here, who can work with indigenous people.
Um congresso que demorou tanto tempo para ter a nossa presença.
And also the national parliament, which took so long before it had any indigenous representatives in it.
Nós não estamos atrasados, nós chegamos aqui no Grammy.
So they say we're backwards, but here we are at the Grammys. Thank you very much.
Por isso que o futuro é ancestral. Por isso que o futuro é ancestral.
Thank you,
And for
Celia.
that reason, the
Thank you,
future
Celia.
is ancestral.
Thank you so much. Powerful. And Mapu, please share with us too, why is it so important for everyone to support the indigenous communities? In your words, please.
É importante porque as pessoas vão vivenciar a realidade.
It's important because that's the way people are going to see reality.
Exemplo disso, esse nosso grande irmão que fez essa viagem, que vivenciou e teve essa sua transformação através da vivência.
And you saw this in what Alok described, his own journey, his cure through contact with indigenous people. So that's not just his experience, that's an example, that's a model for everybody.
Se eu contar uma história para vocês,
I'm going to tell you a story.
vocês vão ouvir.
You can hear the story.
Mas se vocês forem na aldeia, vocês vão vivenciar.
But if you, instead of that, you go to our village, now you're going to be immersed. You're going to live the experience.
Aí não é mais uma história, aí é uma vivência, é realidade.
It's not a story, it's not a tale, it is an experience, it's a reality.
Então por isso que é importante a cada um de vocês poder chegar na nossa aldeia, porque ali vocês vão vivenciar e vocês vão poder acessar a cura que vem da natureza.
That's why it's important for each one of you to come to our villages, because do that and you'll be able to have access to the spiritual cure that we have been talking about. You too can have that.
E vocês vão ouvir através dos nossos cantos a mensagem que vem da floresta.
And through our song, you will learn, you will see, you will know what it is that nature is saying to us.
E aí vocês vão ter uma realidade diferente.
And you're going to see and live, and you will be a different reality.
Então é importante que vocês possam procurar essa comunidade, porque aí vocês vão poder realmente mergulhar dentro das fontes onde tem o conhecimento sagrado ancestral.
So come, visit us, join us, so that you can have access to these ancestral roots, these sources,
E receber sua transformação.
and through that, transformation.
Thank you, Mapu. Thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, and lastly, for you, Alok, what are your, yes, last one for you, Alok. What are your hopes for the legacy of A Future is Ancestral? I know there's a documentary also coming soon from Maria Farina Films. What are your hopes for the documentary? What are your hopes for the whole project? What kind of impact do you hope it will have?
You know, a few years ago, I was living another depressive moment where I was just connecting and thinking about all the bad things that happened on Earth, you know, the wars, the poverty, and all of that. And I was really like in a bad vibes mood, you know, and I was feeling sick. So I took the antibiotic, and the next day I woke up feeling much better. So I looked at the medicine and I asked myself like, wow, actually, who created this? So I remember that there were a lot of people working so hard so that we have a better life, more dignity nowadays. And I just want to be part of this movement. And I feel this project is part of a movement where we can reinforce people's mind for the future, you know. We always talking about like, what world are we going to leave to our kids? But we also forgot to ask, what kids are we leaving to this world? You know, they're the ones that are really gonna stay here, and if they don't change their mindset, it's wasteless. So I feel also that, you know, being here at the GRAMMY Museum, it's important because when I first like started this connection, basically they do not have recording of their songs, right? There was even one of them that were singing for 8 years every night so that he wouldn't forget the song. So after listening to the recording, he was so emotional about like, wow, you know, I don't have to, like, now I can pass to the next generations. And I, you know that the Grammy is actually also a guardian of the songs, of the music. So I think that's why it's so important to be here, you know, with them. Because in the end of the day, this project can only be successful if it really creates awareness, if it really, you know, it's not about, you know, how many plays, it's not about getting top 10 on the radios, it's really about changing people's minds. So yeah, I think that's the legacy of the project.
Amazing, thank you. And you're already starting to have such an impact, so it's a wonderful, wonderful thing you're all doing. It's already having such a great impact worldwide to so many people. So thank you, that concludes our Q&A. Thank you for the insightful conversation to all of you. We're gonna now open up for questions from the audience. So please raise your hand if you have a question, and Chris will be coming around with a microphone. Can see some hands raised. There, second row.
Hi, hello. There we go. Hi, I'm Jamie Freed. I've been working in the entertainment business for about 25 years, and just wanted to say it is really inspiring to see a music artist at your level, such a high level, giving back, to our world, to the community. So really, it's been just absolutely incredible to see this. My big question is, how can we get involved? The community, all the people here, I can see an experience would be just absolutely outstanding to go see them in their natural space. Is there a destination we can go to, or a link that we can donate, or what would you suggest would be an easy way for us to get involved?
Like a call to action, a website, something for people to really get behind.
Let me get back a little bit, okay? So, first of all, in Brazil, we are always taught that we are inferiors, and what happens outside in America and in Europe is superior. We're like third world countries, so, but once we have someone, that's not true, huh? But that's what the people teach us there, like that's the mindset. But once you have a Brazilian breaking the barriers and getting the validation and the international level, it becomes a hero for us in Brazil. It becomes something that, if we have the validation of it, it seems that it's good. It's competing with what, it's meant to be good. So when I thought about this project and why I am being here tonight at the UN and everything, it's because I really think that if we get, the visibility for the indigenous, if we can potentialize their voices through the world, we can get in Brazil people thinking differently about and respecting better because they're here in a position where they're conquering something in the world. And you're gonna have a lot of respect from Brazil because people will look loud, not savage anymore, like they're hype. They're representing us. And if the indigenous in this position can speak to everyone and unify it again, it would be so important, So I think that I'm here actually because I also don't know the way. I'm asking all of you how we can make it happen. Because, for us to cross the barrier is quite complicated, And once we're here trying to bring this awareness stuff, I have not a solution, I have not a formula. But what we have is like the will, to make the change. And we know that we can only make the change through here, through America and through Europe, you know what I mean? So that's why we're actually inviting all of you to be part of this. And if you guys have idea, would be also welcome, You guys didn't need to go to his tribe. We brought him here. We brought him with the music and everything so that you guys could feel it a little bit. And I think that's important of the project, having all of you on board, involved, be part of this movement. Because once again, the last thing this project is Alok's project. Unfortunately, I still have to be here, a white man talking with white people. Because I remember when Celia called me to go to the Congress this year, because they were launching the first parliament, like indigenous, like in the history of Brazil. And she said, like, can you come here? I said, like, of course not. It's your moment. Like, what are we gonna do there? Like, listen, Alok, it's really, like, very important to have you here now because you're gonna create awareness in press, and that's what happened actually, The next day, they were not talking much about indigenous, they were talking about my presence there, but we could convert it to them. So, I think that in the end of the day, once again, if anyone here has the answer, it would be awesome because I'm also looking for it. But as I said, we don't have the answer, but we have the will to make the difference.
But I think the Futures Ancestral is a great place to start, right? Getting behind this movement that you've started, that all of you have come together to create. This is a movement. Yes, there's an album, yes, there's a documentary, but I think it's more than that. It's a movement. And if you want to get behind it, the Futures Ancestral is a good start, in my mind. Any more questions from the audience? Please raise your hand.
I have a question for Celia, and I can speak in English and then ask her in Portuguese. My question is, I feel that we are destroying nature because we are disconnected from ourselves and from each other. So I would like her to share a wisdom of how we can start connecting to ourselves, either through music or also around each other with other humans and with nature. I think she already listened to my Portuguese on her, so it's okay.
Okay, Celia?
Porque as pessoas distanciaram tanto da terra. E por isso, você não ama aquilo que você não tem relação.
Disconnected from nature, and that's why they can't really have a relationship.
Parece que meio ambiente era sempre a metade. E meio ambiente para nós, povos indígenas, é a totalidade da vida.
The environment seems to you to just be half of the world. For us, it is the whole world.
Quando eu cheguei para estudar em Belo Horizonte, eu nunca tinha estudado nem ensino médio fora do território indígena.
When I arrived in the Brazilian city, large city of Belo Horizonte, I actually had studied very little.
E me pediu para fazer um trabalho e levar um pouco de terra para a universidade.
So they asked me to bring some earth to the university.
Só que eu demorei 3 dias para achar a terra na cidade.
However, it took me 3 days to find a piece of dirt, earth in the concrete city.
E aí eu percebi porque as pessoas tornaram distante o amor pela terra. Está tão distante delas.
And that's when I realized, no wonder people just don't have any relationship with the earth. There's no earth here.
Embora nós, povos indígenas, não somos considerados bons artilheiros, embora jogamos bola muito bem.
Although, you know what, people think that indigenous people are not very good at soccer, but actually we dribble pretty well.
Eu falo que somos boas zagueiras. Defendemos, somos bons em defesa.
We are good on the defensive line.
Sem demarcação não tem clima. Sem planeta também não tem clima.
Okay. If there's no planet, Earth, nature, then there's no climate to have climate change or be a good climate. There's nothing.
E quando fala na pergunta anterior, o que podemos fazer? Vamos fazer um grande festival mundial indígena?
So going back to the previous question, what can we do? Well, how about a worldwide indigenous festival?
Eu quero produzir as roupas, as vestimentas, eu também quero ajudar a pintar.
I would like to
I
work
love that
on
idea.
the
What a great idea.
I would like to work on the costumes, and also I would like to paint them.
Realizamos um festival indígena no passado, e festival não é só cantar no palco. Festival tem comida. Podemos falar de bioeconomia, trazer o jeito de fazer comida.
So when I talk about an indigenous festival, I don't mean just music, I mean food, I mean sort of the whole economy, everything.
Temos artesanato. Vamos vender artesanato?
We have handcrafts, we can sell that too.
Para conectar realmente, como diz nosso parceiro Alok, não precisa estar perto, precisa somente sentir amor.
So it's not a question of being physically close, it's a question of feeling love, to connect.
Eu invento muito conceito, por isso que é difícil traduzir.
No wonder it's kind of hard to translate all this stuff.
Mas agora eu estou escrevendo sobre humanidades musicais.
I am writing now about musical humanities.
E há humanidades também espirituais. As nossas almas precisam estar conectadas com a ancestralidade.
And spiritual humanities, the need for us to connect with our ancestral spiritual roots.
Porque quando as pessoas irem embora do show, eu falo que elas precisam continuar dançando.
I say, when people leave the show, at the end of the show, they need to not stop dancing. They've got to keep dancing.
Quando elas irem embora da floresta, a floresta precisa continuar dentro delas.
When people leave the forest, they need to take the forest with them so it continues to live in them.
E a terra é mulher, por isso sentimos tão próxima da terra.
And also want to say women
Thank
are
you,
closer
Celia.
to the earth than men. It's true, right?
Thank you, Celia. Okay, and any other questions in the audience, please? With the cake to the far right.
Hello, everyone.
Please direct your question as well. Thank you.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Hola, Mapu. Good to see you. I had a multi-part question, but first, I just wanted to acknowledge that we're also here on stolen indigenous land, Tongva land, and my question to you, Alok, was if you would be open to also like being in solidarity and collaboration, like bridging artists, also who are indigenous to Turtle Island here. And also I had some specific asks for Mapu and Celia about if there are specific projects and visions in your communities that people should be aware of, because I know right now with the floods in Acre, for instance, there's a fundraiser in Mutum for the floods happening there, and just really wanting to see how this community can amplify and support with directing resources back to your communities.
Okay, and who would like to first answer this question?
Como eu estou no Congresso Nacional, existe um momento que todas as formas da natureza responder, ela já está dizendo.
So there I am in the National Parliament, and we're talking about nature, but you got to listen to the voice of nature. It's there.
Temos discutido na COP, a maior conferência climática, sobre mudança climática, mas a mudança não é algo do futuro, é algo de agora.
So you know the COP conference, climate change, you know, a huge conference, right? But the point is that that's sort of about agreements about the future, but it's happening now, so it's the present that matters.
Ano passado eu fui em 18 estados brasileiros e fui na Amazônia exatamente na maior seca que atingiu a Amazônia. Ninguém pensou nisso.
Last year, I traveled around 18 Brazilian states, and guess what? I went to the Amazon. You know what I found there? Drought. Yes, in the wet Amazon, drought.
Quando gravamos o documentário, eu provoquei muito a Alok a gente gravar numa área de mineração.
And then we were working on the documentary, and we went to mineral, mining operations where they strip the land completely barren there in the Amazon.
Porque eu estou num estado onde a mineração matou 2 rios importantes.
And I come from a state where this mining extractive industry has destroyed 2 major rivers.
Tem coisa que o dinheiro pode comprar, mas eu nunca vi um dinheiro ter a capacidade de trazer o rio de volta.
You know, money can buy a lot, but I have never seen money bring a river that has been killed, destroyed, bring it back.
A nossa luta é para reflorestar, mas nós vivemos uma sociedade impaciente.
We are determined, our project, our cause is reforestation, but this is desperate, this is urgent.
Ficamos ansiosa pelo nosso projeto que em 4 anos não deu certo.
So we're nervous about the progress of our project, which we've been working on it for 4 years, and we have not achieved the results we need.
Quando a Alok foi me apresentar a música de Mapu, ele falou: Celinha, você sabia que a música existe 4 tempos?
So when Alok went somewhere, he was asked, "Do you even know that there's 4 seasons?"
E eu falei: para nós os 4 tempos é o tempo da água, o tempo da seca, o tempo do vento e o tempo de plantar.
So we said we have the dry season, the wet season, and the planting season, the harvesting season. Those are our seasons.
Estamos num momento de muitos desafios de desastres naturais, mas tem uma boa notícia.
We are in a period, as you will have noticed, of natural disasters. However, I do have some good news.
Nós somos a última geração a poder fazer alguma coisa para salvar o planeta.
Which is that we are the last generation that can actually do something to save the planet.
E a hora é agora.
Time is
Thank
now.
you, Celia. Thank you, Celia, for your insightful comments. And I'm sure that we have many other people wanting questions and wanting to talk, but this will have to conclude this part of the evening because we do have an incredible performance to get to still. So I'd like to thank our guests.
Can I just do,
Of course.
answering your question? I think here is a little bit of the answer. It's like what we can do is actually giving the opportunity so that they can be heard. Because we're always talking about how can we protect the forest, but we really have to understand also people that live there are the real guardians of it. How we can co-create a sustainable future. So I think this can be also the answer, how we can, give them the platform so that we can hear what they have to say. I remember that last year at UN and also the other year, they invited me to go there to talk about climate change. But I said, listen, let's bring who really understands about the topic. So I brought them at UN. So I think that might be some of the answer.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Alok. Thank you. So please join me in thanking our wonderful panelists. And please take a few minutes. In 10 minutes, we'll resume for a most incredible performance tonight. Take some time, get some drinks, and following the performance, we will have a lovely reception for you all to enjoy on the roof here. Thank you.